cause are refined. But even though it feels good, don't stick it in your behind. You see a Ketuo onion design, and you're always inclined to lay down your money and buy that onion so hot, this shit'll make you cry. So when you see this design at a show or online, grab that shit, post haste, don't waste no time. It's a buckhorn, that's my buckhorn, big badass buckhorn, launching when this new brand cover was born. Can onion design be sexy, curves are refined? But even though it feels good, don't stick it in your behind. You'll see a candle and down, down.
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Jim, and we are here to discuss an awesome knife. Today I have for you not just a brand new knife, but an all-new knife company as well. And they've managed to swing a huge collaboration by wrangling the legendary Ken Onion to design this beast. Now, let's go over the basics of what Karbon Knives is and what this knife is all about. First off, Karbon is a new brand name for a company owned by Ketuo. Ketuo being the sister company to Reich Knife. So you've got Reich and you've got Ketuo. And now under Ketuo, you have Karbon. This is going to be the COA card that comes with each of the Buckhorns. As you see, it was designed by Ken Onion. Blade is S35VN, and it is a titanium handle. Going to get a microfiber cloth in there as well. Let's set these to the side. And inside here, and you could see that beautiful organic flow that Ken Onion is so well known for. Now, if you've never had a chance to handle one of Ken's custom knives, first off, I feel sorry for you. You need to go to a blade show and sample some of the knives that he has made, whether it be off the secondary market or from a dealer that has new old stock, whatever it is. His creations are amazing. Now, a lot of people that are newer to the knife community only know Ken's name from Kershaw Knives, where there's been a lot of his designs that were manufactured under Kershaw. And that really propelled him to the legendary status that he's at. Because at some point, whether you know it or not, at some point, I guarantee you have owned a Ken Onion design. But this is a lot more special than just having a Kershaw where they have made one of his designs. This is a direct collaboration where Ken does all the design and Karbon or Ketuo does the manufacturing. So instead of having to drop, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 on the secondary market for a Ken Onion full custom knife, you can have one of his beautiful designs in a production level knife for only $275. And I think it's a pretty good deal. $275. In today's day and age, where many knives are coming out at this level with these kind of materials for between $350 and $500, I think $275 is a crazy, crazy deal. Especially when you have a name like Ken Onion attached to it. Because, you've got to pay Ken for the collaborative effort for his design. And usually when you get a big name designer involved, that's going to jack the prices way up, whether they can be justified or not. And in this case, it would have been. If this was a $400 knife, nothing about what I'm about to say would be any different. But I'm really glad that it's only $275. Now, this is large, but honestly, it doesn't feel as large as it really is. Now, I want to give you a very specific number here, and I want you to keep that number in your head, okay? The overall length of this knife is 8.78 inches exactly. 8.78. Keep that number in the back of your mind. There'll be a quiz on it later. Now, what you may not know is this knife won the 2024 Knife Collaboration of the Year award from Blade Show, which was just a couple of weeks ago. So this is hot out of Blade Show. Brand spanking new model, brand spanking new company. And probably one of the most exciting knives to come out of Blade Show. From its unique gray pearlescent bead blasted, or vapor blasted is what I would assume, vapor blasted blade, to the gold anodized pivot, the overall presence of the design is impressive. And to factor in that $275 price is kind of crazy. Because look at all of the detail work that goes into this. Starting first with, I'm going to back up just a little bit. We're going to start off with the shape. The way this titanium frame is shaped. You notice how it gets thinner, gets thicker. It swells here with a nice palm swell, then gets thinner again. This would be very reminiscent of a highly contoured fixed blade handle. So you've got this really nice contoured shape. Then, of course, it's contoured in this direction as well. So when it comes to ergonomics, this knife has got it all over the place. Now, we go from that to see the first major design that comes in here is the split handle design, where these two prominent milled lines split a northern and southern hemisphere of this handle. Now, beyond that, that leaves dead space here and dead space here, which they have managed to do a 3D milled pattern. This is not just a carved in or lasered in pattern. It is an actual texture that you'll feel. Now, I showed you one recently with this very similar pattern, almost identical pattern, in the Remet Knives Swordfish. I just uploaded that video about a week or two ago. This is the same thing, but it's deeper or taller, however you want to look at it. It's more prominent, has more topography, and a lot more feel to it. All right, so you've got the northern and southern hemispheres. Then the dead spots at east and west are filled with this Q-bert pyramid style pattern. And then across the north and south, you have the straight milled lines, which again, remembering that this frame is contoured with a palm swell and contoured in this direction as well, yet the lines are beautiful, crisp, and straight. Then you have the 3 holes in the center of the handle. As it tapers to the rear, that's one of my favorite angles to view this knife from, is right here, right where it tapers in, and then these lines come back. It looks somehow like something you would see off of a, like a vintage airplane or something. It's really, really, really cool. Then we get to the pocket clip. The pocket clip is every bit as crazy. You have a nice sculpted, milled titanium clip, and then you have this Q-bert texture done onto just the tip of the clip. Another thing that I find very, very special about this is the lock bar relief cut. Notice how it's done where it's shallow and goes deeper. I've never once seen this done on a relief cut on anybody's lock bar ever. And that gives it, again, an incredibly unique look. And these are the kind of details that if you're not sitting here really close up on it and looking at it, you wouldn't notice it. If it was just sitting here in a picture, you're like, oh, okay, well, it's an accordion style lock bar. No, it's not. That relief cut, it's like 3 claws. And I think that's so wild and so cool. And then you get to the thumb studs. My favorite type of thumb studs are angled like this. So they're angled and they have serrations so that the exact angle that your thumb is going to be pushing up against it, you've got traction. You've got grip, just like you would on the jimping of the flipper tab, which by the way works fantastically. You've got that here on the thumb stud as well. And yes, you can flick it from behind with your middle finger, no problem at all. Now let's take a look at it as an overall design, the way the whole thing flows together. It's got a bit more of an aggressive blade profile to it than I think the handle would dictate. I mean, you're looking at this and you're kind of expecting maybe a standard drop point or a standard clip point out of it. And then you've got this. Very modern, almost futuristic kind of look, blended with an old world, old school kind of look in the handle. And then again, this vintage sort of look. It almost looks like there's engine turning on these areas here as the light dances across it. The more I look at it, the more I appreciate it. This is one of those knives that it's clearly meant to be used, right? It's plain titanium with a plain monosteel blade, again, S35VN. So it's not a dress knife. It's not done up in all Damascus with pearl inlays and a Damascus blade, nothing like that. But yet it still looks like a form of art in the way that it's designed, in the way that it flows. I mean, if you were looking at this like you would look at car design and you see the swells of the fenders going over the wheels and you look at the way the body goes in and out to create the overall beauty of the shape. And it doesn't matter what angle you view it from, there is something. There is a swell, there is a scallop, there is a bevel, there is a milled texture. There is something in every single portion of this knife to look at, yet it's not so busy that it feels cluttered. It's a beautiful, clean design that still has a lot going on. Now, that doesn't mean that the knife escapes criticism. There's one thing that I hope that if they do a second run of these, a version 2, if you will, I really wish that the titanium was a little bit thicker, and or they took the time to deal with that harsh edge on the inside of the lock bar. It feels a lot like you're unlocking a liner lock that would be a very thin liner lock that has too much tension. We've all had those at some point. You feel like you got to push in really hard and you're digging in and it ends up doing that to your thumb and it ends up tearing skin away. And next thing you know, you've got a notch cut into your thumb. That will happen with this. This is not a knife that you can just sit there and fidget with over and over and over if you have somewhat normal hands. Now, luckily, my skin is all pretty much dead at my fingertips, so it's not like it's painful for me, but I notice it, I feel it. It is a harsh edge that I don't think is a deal breaker for anybody, because if you're just using the knife or you're playing with it for a couple of minutes, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you're sitting there through the length of a TV show and you're flipping your knife over and over and over and over, as many of us tend to do, especially in our honeymoon phase of a brand new knife, you're going to be rather irritated on your thumb. There's no way around it. So I like the fact that the whole knife is very, very slim and it's pretty lightweight for its size. Again, 8.78 inches overall. So I see why they decided to go thin, but I would beg them go a little bit thicker and maybe just mill more pockets out of the interior to offset that additional weight. Or, and there's not a lot of room to do it because this is so thin, but really get in there and soften this. And it looks like they've tried. There is a little bit of a bevel right there that I can see, but it doesn't help because it's so thin. It just digs into you. But I'm not going to belabor that. That's just one tiny little thing about this knife overall. Now I think it's important to get to the specs. I think you've all learned by now that the overall length is 8.78 inches. The blade length, 3.85. So just a hair under a 4-inch blade. This is a full-size folder that, because of how thin it is, it doesn't feel as big as it is. And again, the blade steel is S35VN. You've got bearings. I'm going to make the assumption that they're ceramic bearings because honestly, who's using steel bearings these days? It really is all about ceramic bearings. All I know is it is wonderfully smooth. The action is great. The detent is tuned perfectly. It is a sharp and crisp detent without feeling like it's difficult to overcome and break. Even if you've got a little bit of pressure on the lock bar, like my fingers are on it right there, it's still able to deploy without hanging up and making you feel like you've got to break your finger to hit the detent. Works just fine. And it's also got great tension for using the thumb studs. Again, whether you want to do it forward or you want to flick it from behind, whichever way you want to do it. And then your action closing. You can see how smooth this is. It's not completely drop free. It's not uncontrollable. It's a nice, smooth, controlled, almost hydraulic feeling drop. And then we get to the shape of the blade and the grinds and the way they were done. That's just dead sexy. And honestly, if it didn't have this top swedge, I wouldn't like it as much. It really does add a lot more character. You do have a forward choil here that is roomy enough for your index finger to crawl up into. No worries there. And your thumb studs double as the blade stops as well. Now, remember when I asked you to memorize the overall length of 8.78 inches? Because that, my friends, is what this means. Your pivot, which looks like the case head of, I wouldn't even know what caliber, 4570 maybe? I would honestly have to mic it and see what the diameter is on that. And I don't have any 4570s, unfortunately, because the one 4570 I was looking to buy, some jackhole put it in a friggin' movie, and it got so popular that you couldn't find it for 3 years. And when it came back into production after 3 years, it went up by 50% in price, and I just don't see it being worth that. Anyway, I digress. But engraved onto that is 87.8.2024. Year of production is 2024. And 87.8. It's written backwards, almost like a European date. So you would think of this as being the month and this as being the year, like 887. Nope. It's 8.78 inches. It's written backwards. I know it sounds like I'm reaching, like I'm trying to make a connection, but I did talk to Karbon, or I talked to Ketuo, I talked to Ian at Ketuo, and I asked what the significance was, and he says because the overall length is 8.78 inches, we engraved that around the pivot. So I thought that was kind of neat. And even more neat is from the backside where your tooling is to make your pivot adjustments, it looks like the primer has been struck. How cool is that? Yeah, I kind of dig it. Now, I know there's some people that are going to look at that and go, that's just too much. It's too overbearing in the overall design. And I get that. It is a big pivot, and a lot of people don't like big pivots. I don't mind it on this particular knife, however. I kind of like how it looks. Overall, I find it to be a very useful knife. Adding in the fact that you've got the back spacer that comes out to a lanyard opening. For those that like to use lanyards, you're going to have that accessibility, and you don't have to worry about learning how to tie your own lanyards. You could take a pre-tied lanyard, pop it through, and then double it through the loop, and then boom, bang, boom, it's done. So smooth, sharp, fast, comfortable in the hand, and it doesn't matter which way you choose to hold it. It's Oh man, and a pinch grip. That's right where this dips down and gets narrow. Oh man, that feels good. This is going to be a killer EDC. I thought maybe because it was so big that I wasn't going to use it for EDC, and it is immediately going into my rotation. Now, I've carried this for the past 3 or 4 days since I got it because I wanted to make sure that it carried well. I wanted to feel how it carried in the pocket. Can I get my hand in past it? If I want to put my hands in my pockets in a pair of jeans, all that passed wonderfully. It did everything I wanted it to do as a daily carry knife, and it's stupidly sharp. They did a great job on the edge. I think if you're looking for something that's on the larger size that's not obnoxious, this is a good choice. If you're looking for something with some artistic flair, with an elegance in the design without being overdone or too busy, I think this also is an excellent choice. And if you're looking for, in all honesty, a great value, this being at $275, another fantastic choice. I'm excited to see how many variants of this model come out over the next couple of years, because if they stop at just this one, they have missed a wonderful opportunity to milk an incredible design. I mean, imagine this if it was all 100% black DLC. Oh, yeah. And I'm imagining different ways that you could anodize different areas of the handle. There's a lot of potential here, and it looks fantastic in this exact format here. And I think for launch, they couldn't have picked a better way to do it. Nice, clean, simple, basic, all gray and silver. Can't go wrong with that. All right, I'm out of here for now, guys. Thank you so much for joining me as always. Visit the Ketuo website. I'll write it up here on the screen down below. Go visit them and check out their wares. And as far as I was told, as of today, the day that I am recording this, it is June 20th. They should have restocked these from selling out during Blade Show. So definitely check their website for availability. You'll be able to grab one of these for $275. And I'll see you guys on the next video.